You are listening to the Wool Academy podcast. This is episode number 73.
Hello and welcome. My name is Elisabeth van Delden, and once a week we talk to an industry expert from the wool industry supply chain from farm to fashion and beyond, delivering strategies and insights to be successful in wool and showcasing those beautiful stories wool has to tell.
Today I welcome Tove Grane on the show. Tove is the founder and designer of the apparel company We Norwegians. Welcome, Tove, to the show. How are you today?
Thank you, Elisabeth. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm also good. We just discussed before we came online that it's really, really cold, but in Norway you said it's minus 20 degrees and here in Germany it's minus 6. So a very good reason to talk about wool, I think.
Perfect.
Well, why don't we start by you introducing yourself a little bit more in detail and tell us what you do.
All right. So I'm a Norwegian designer, born and raised in Norway and educated in design in Norway, in Oslo. I've been working as a designer for more than 20 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. So I live in Voss, which is a small town quite close to Bergen. If you heard about that, it's the second biggest city in Norway. Voss is very famous for skiing, extreme sport, and also sheep farming, but for wool. So I moved to Voss in 2010 to start working for a ski brand. And before that, I've been working with knitting designs as well for a company in Oslo. So I've been working with knits and wool for a long time now.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your introduction, but you also recently found a new brand called We Norwegians. Tell us a little bit more about your company and the vision behind your brand.
All right. The story goes like this, that I moved to the city of Voss, which is quite small. And the brand that I was working for was closed down after it was bought by a bigger company. And so I found myself here in Voss with no job and without a prospect of getting a new job within design in this town. So after a year, I decided to take the plunge and create my own brand. So after working with the ski brand for 3 years, I've been, really into merino wool because of the functionality. And I was working with some really nice fabrics. And I thought that it had potential to do something, to create a brand that was focused on merino wool with the technical abilities that we'll have and still be kind of fashionable in a way, because I felt that a lot of the base layers that I was creating for ski wear had such nice fabrics, but I was missing that in fashion as well. So that was the idea or the start.
Okay, and when did you found We Norwegians?
The idea started just after I left my old company in 2013, and then I spent some time just, trying to come up with a sort of business plan for it. And it was launched in October 2014.
Okay, and how did you come up with the name We Norwegians?
Well, I wanted to have a name that sort of immediately describes where the brand was from, because I wanted to work internationally. And I think that with wool and Norway has a very close connection. At the same time, I wanted to show the world that Norway is a contemporary, modern country, and it's including in a way, the way that we live and close to nature and so forth. So I thought that it was I wanted to show everyone how we live today, really.
Yeah, and can you explore a little bit more this heritage that Norway has with wool and what is so special about it?
Well, it's quite cold in Norway, as you know. So we have just been wearing wool forever. And I mean, we grow up wearing it as newborns. Um, all babies now in Norway use wool as a base layer. So it's just a part of us, really. And we continue to wear wool all the time when we grow up, and it's just natural.
And
Yeah,
that translated then also into your brand.
yeah, yes.
And you also say that you love knitting. So what do you like so much about knitting?
I love knitwear. I'm not so good at knitting myself, I have to admit. But I grew up with my mother and my grandmother's knitting, of course, and I was more into the design part of it, and I I made them knit what I wanted. So I was lucky in that way. But knitwear is just really comfortable to wear. Um, it's just feels very comfortable, relaxed, and informal, cozy. Makes you feel good, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I have the same situation that I don't know really how to knit, but my mother is a very good knitter, so I do the same.
Yeah,
I tell her what she should knit for me. So
yeah.
it's a good
Very
teamwork thing.
convenient.
Yes. And I also read that you say that all the garments you create must meet a need and they need to be useful and stand the test of time. Can you
Hmm.
explain this concept a little bit more in detail?
Well, I think I don't know. I mean, I've been working within textile and fashion for a long, long time, and I think that after a while you get kind of, I don't know, bored in a way with fashion. And when I wanted to create my own brand, I thought that it has to be something more. Because style and trends they change all the time, and that's fun. But I personally always seem to go back to more basic garments that I love and that I can keep for a long time, and just don't have to change everything all the time. And I love the way that, well, when I started a brand, I was looking a lot at the architects and industrial designers in Norway, and I was very inspired by them and Scandinavian minimalism in a way that you just try to take away unnecessary things. Because I feel that those kind of garments and those kind of things and houses and everything just seem to last longer, you know.
Yeah, and I heard someone else say about your garments that they're functional enough to be using and wearing them on the skiing slopes, but they're also
Right.
elegant and casual enough to then
Yes.
walk into town.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but
I joke
yeah,
I joke about that. That is kind of based on kind of a laziness, because I like to be comfortable. At the same time, I'm very practical. But I still want to look good, you know.
yeah, and I guess in the Western world, many consumers are looking to reduce the amount of clothes that they have and reduce their environmental
Exactly.
impact. So is that I would think a need that you are meeting there.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good point, because I don't want to, fill up my closet with a lot of stuff. So it's better to have, few things that you can wear a lot and you can combine them and wear them in different ways. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
I think that's, something that more and more people are realizing now as well.
Yeah, maybe because our listeners right now can't really see your garments, maybe can you describe a little bit what kind of items your collection includes, and so they get a feel?
Yes. Well, in the beginning, when I launched it, people were a bit, or my audience and the buyers were a bit confused because they were thinking, "What is this? Is it fashion? Is it sport?" And I was kind of lacking a word how to describe it. And then I heard this word in ISPO the first time called athleisure, and that describes it perfectly because it's something in between sport and fashion that you can dress up or wear casually depending on how you put it together with other items, because it's like a gray zone between sport and fashion. So it's quite basic in a way that you can wear a sweater, that you can wear together with ski pants, or at the same time you can wear it with jeans and put a shirt underneath. So it's very versatile.
Okay, yeah, and I will make sure to link to your website also in the show notes so that people can check it out.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And you tell me also, how do you source your wool and where do you manufacture your products?
Well, we do everything in Europe. And the reason for that is that I have worked in Asia for many, many years, and they make fantastic things there as well. But I felt that as a small new company, that it was more manageable to work within Europe in a way that it's, first of all, closer, so I don't have to travel as far. And also the EU regulations within, chemicals and pollution and animal welfare and so forth. Even though the raw wool itself comes from Australia and New Zealand most of the time, I know that the yarn spinners that I work with have quite strict regulations and rules about how they manufacture the yarns. So I don't source the fiber itself. I source the yarn, which comes from Italy, Germany, mostly.
Yeah, and I saw that actually on each item of clothing online, you describe exactly where the yarn was made, what quality it
Yes.
is, where it was knitted and cut and sewn. Why is this important to you to provide this kind of detail?
Well, when I started the company, again, I wanted to be as transparent as I can, because I think that it's more and more important for the consumers to know, just as food, you know, uh, where stuff is produced, and that it's done in a responsible way, because I myself like to know that. And I'm learning more and more as well every day, so I try to be as transparent as possible, just for the benefit of everyone, I think, to make people also be more aware of what they buy,
Mm,
really.
yeah. And speaking then what of the consumer, so where do you actually market your brand and who would be your typical consumer?
uh, do you mean by what kind of PR work we do?
Um, well,
Because
and well, mainly like you sell online, but maybe you also
yes,
distribute differently.
yes, we sell internationally. We have lots of shops in Norway, of course. US is a big market for us, and also we're starting to get more and more shops in Europe, especially in the mountain areas like the Alps. We are represented mostly in the ski resort towns in the US, of course, but it's all over the US, also in Beverly Hills. Yeah.
So you
So
you have
I
a
sell to other shops,
mhm.
and we also have our own shop here in Voss, and we're planning to open a shop in Oslo beginning of the summer, and maybe one in the US as well.
Okay, so it's a mixture of wholesaling, your
Yes.
own shops as well as online.
Yes.
Do you feel it today it's necessary to have the combination of all these three?
As a new brand, it was important to spread out. Since nobody had heard about the brand, I found that it was difficult to just focus on e-commerce, because clothing needs to be touched and felt and tried on, I think, for the first time. But I see that people who have maybe tried our garments in shops are more confident on buying our stuff online afterwards.
And can you describe who would be your typical customer who would wear your clothes?
Yeah, well, we have mostly a more grown-up audience, I think, even though it ranges from teenagers to older crowds, but more senior. But I would say it's usually people who, first of all, have their own jobs, who are willing to spend a bit more money on the garments that I have, and have kind of found their style in a way, that are not too much into the latest fashion trends, but maybe more conservative, I would think. Environmental,
Yeah.
people who are concerned about the environment and think before they buy.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
If they're also concerned about the environment, but you just answered that. And coming back to starting your business, can you
Yes.
tell us what was your biggest challenge when you started your business, and what did you learn from it?
Well, first of all, it's always a challenge to. Well, the first thing that you encounter in a way is how to find your style and your identity, of course. Then it's also difficult to reach out to an audience so that you can actually get the quantities you need for production. For me, it was not a challenge, but to find the right factories also to work with, so that you can find some, because you're going to build your brand together with these factories, right? For me as a brand, it's an investment, for them as well. So you have to find someone who's willing to believe in your idea and to start up production, and with the small quantities that you have, and also to, after the first production, to make sure that it's up to par quality wise and fitting. It's a lot of steps to take care of, so to gain the trust of the consumers.
Yeah. And do you feel you have now different challenges to compared to the beginning, and what would these be?
It's always challenges. I mean, I don't really know where to start, but I think it's always challenging to keep the quality good enough. I think that's always something that we're concerned about. Just quality check again and again and again. That will never end, of course, because we're always striving to be better. I think it's also a bit challenging concerning the sales. To it's a lot of competition out there, and to stand out and make people believe in your story, and also price wise, because merino wool is getting more and more popular. So actually the prices of wool have gone up like 30% in just the last year. That obviously is also a challenge to get actually the consumers to understand that price versus quality is there is a pattern there. The fast fashion is cheap for a reason, but luckily more and more people are realizing this. So yeah.
Yeah, and do you feel you have to educate your consumers about wool? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I saw that you have some videos on how to take care of your garments.
Yes. In Norway, this is not an issue at all because it's natural for people to take care of their wool. It's something that everybody knows, really. But I was quite surprised when we went to the US for the first time that you know how new this is to everyone there. That, for instance, that you don't have to wash your wool that often. Because they were very concerned about their, cleanliness of wool, and didn't quite grasp the concept of that you don't really have to wash wool to keep it clean. You just have to air it out, and this was very big news to a lot of the shops that I was working with.
So now so you have the videos, but do you also have like material that the shops can hand out on how to take care of their wool? Or?
Yes, we make these little folders that we can give to our customers, and we also try to make these clinics as much as we can when we visit the shops, so that they can also educate the end consumers and the customers in their shops.
What do you mean by clinics? Can you explain
Well, then we try to explain, first of all, what merino wool is, explain about microns and the technical abilities of wool, and how, the yarns that we use, etc., etc. Everything just.
And that's with the shop owners or also with end consumers?
Both. Sometimes we do clinics with the people who work in the shops, and sometimes they will invite their customers to like small events that we can have in the shop.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, and that also leads me to one of my last questions. So you already mentioned that you live in a very rural area in Norway, in Voss. But of course, majority of the consumers live in cities and don't have any connection to nature or to farming. And they also don't know anything how clothes are made. So do you think it is important that consumers have like reconnect to the source of the products, and how, what is your idea on helping with that?
I think so. And I think this is also a trend that's been going on for a few years now about, craftsmanship concerning food and just how things are made. And I also think that it's important for people to know how clothes are made. And, it's been very trendy in a way with being vegetarian and vegan, and then they say, well, what about vegan wool? What is that? But that's actually acrylic. And how it then is acrylic made? Well, that's made from oil, which is not good for nature. When you see the circle of life of a garment made of acrylic and polyester. So we're also starting up like a wool school or material school that we want to teach people how different fibers work, just very plain and simple, so that people can know what the different things are really.
Oh, that sounds really like a good project to pursue.
Yeah.
And do you have any other future plans for your brand?
Well, we have lots of plans, of course. But first of all, this year we're focusing on building our own flagship store and get that up and running. It's going to be in Oslo, and we're working with some very creative young architects from Bergen. So that's very exciting. I also have some plans, expanding the product lines, of course. Maybe, make some more base layer programs, maybe some wool care products. I have lots of ideas.
Yes, I think designers like you never stop having ideas.
No,
That's just what you have to
never
do.
stops.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Before we close,
Thank
where
you.
should our listeners go to find out more about We Norwegians?
Well, first of all, they can check out our website. We always try to keep it as updated as possible. There you can also find out where you can buy our stuff locally, like in different cities around the world. If you can't find anything near where you live, you can buy our clothes online. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, where we, try to be updated about new styles that we release, and also educate people on wool mainly,
Excellent.
but also some Scandinavian design and architecture and things that inspire us.
Yeah. No, it's all about storytelling and adding different aspects of your brand, because your brand is not one-dimensional. It has many different facets.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you once again. I would wish you lots of success. I also really love what you do. And thank you again for your time.
Thanks for calling me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Tove Grane. If you want to find out more about Tove as well as about We Norwegians, then head on over to the show notes at elisabethvandelden.com/073. Once again, that is at elisabethvandelden.com/073. If you are active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn, then make sure to follow us on these platforms so that you are always alerted when a new podcast is coming out. I look forward to connecting with you there. Thank you for listening. Talk to you again next week, and bye for now.